Today, we're jumping into a really powerful chapter from the Quran called Al Furqan. It's all about confronting doubt, defining what's true, and showing a clear path forward. And the amazing thing is, it all circles back to one single core idea.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The name of the chapter, Al Furqan, literally means the criterion. Now what's that? Well, think of it like a perfect filter or a divine measuring stick. It's what you use to separate truth from lies, right from wrong, guidance from, well, getting lost. And honestly, understanding this one word is the key to the entire chapter.
So right from the get-go, the surah tells us that this criterion was sent down from God to his servant, the Prophet Muhammad. And why? For a huge, universal purpose, to be a warner to all of humanity. This isn't just a local message, you see. It's meant for everyone, everywhere.
And that right there sets up the central drama of the whole chapter. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, here's the ultimate truth. But what happens when people just don't buy it? You know, when they question where it came from, who's delivering it, and what it's even saying? That's the exact question this chapter dives into.
So, how does this all play out? Well, the chapter doesn't waste any time. It jumps right into the thick of it, laying out all the challenges and accusations the prophet had to face from his critics. And these aren't just small disagreements either. We're talking about full-on attacks against his credibility.
The first big charge they throw out there? It's basically plagiarism and fabrication. The disbelievers are saying, look, this Quran thing, it isn't from God at all. He just made it up himself, and he probably had some other people helping him. They're calling it a total lie.
And then they double down. They're basically saying, okay, even if he didn't invent it from scratch, he just copied it from old myths and fables. The accusation is that he's just recycling these legends of the ancients that are being whispered to him constantly.
After that, the attacks get personal. They start to question his very humanity. Like, how can a messenger from God be so normal? He eats food, he goes to the market, he's just like us. Their argument is, shouldn't a real prophet have an angel walking beside him, to prove he's legit?
And finally, it all builds up to this, a direct personal insult. When they can't argue with the message itself, they attack the messenger. They dismiss him as being delusional or bewitched. It's their way of telling his followers, you're being tricked by someone who's not even in his right mind.
Now here's where it gets really fascinating. How does the surah respond to all this? It doesn't just get into a shouting match. Instead, it pushes back on two different levels. First, with straight-up logical answers. And second, by pointing to the world all around us as the ultimate proof.
Let's look at those direct answers. When they say he invented it, the response comes back that this was sent down by the one who knows every single secret in the heavens and the earth. That's a level of knowledge no human could ever have. And to the charge that he's just a man, the text says, yep, and so is every other messenger before him. It's just how it's always been done.
And this is where the next layer of the argument comes in, and it's brilliant. After answering their specific claims, the surah basically zooms out and says, you want proof of a divine power? Just open your eyes. It turns the entire natural world into a book that's just waiting to be read.
And the examples it gives are just beautiful. We're talking about the predictable way a shadow moves, the perfect cycle of night for rest and day for work, the winds that bring the good news of rain. Or how about this? The fact that you have two huge bodies of water, one sweet and one salty, existing side by side with a barrier between them. Even our own creation from water. Each of these is presented as a crystal clear sign of one all-powerful creator.
So after taking on the critics and laying out its evidence, the chapter makes this amazing pivot. It shifts from talking about what's wrong to painting a detailed picture of what's right. It describes the kind of person who actually lives by this criterion, and it gives them this beautiful title, the servants of the most merciful.
So what does that actually look like? Well, the text basically gives us a roadmap to a righteous character. It starts with how they carry themselves, with humility. How they deal with negativity, they just respond with peace. It describes their private lives, spent in devotion and prayer, and their public lives. They're balanced, never wasteful, but never stingy either. And then it hits the big ethical principles, respecting life, telling the truth, and not getting dragged into useless drama. It's a whole guide to life.
But here's the thing. Their goals aren't just about self-improvement. A really crucial detail is what they pray for. They ask God to make their families a source of goodness and joy. And they don't just want to be good themselves. They aspire to be leaders and positive role models for other good people. Their faith is personal, but their vision is communal.
And from this ideal portrait, the surah brings us to the end game.
It explores the ultimate consequences of it all, what happens when you accept the criterion versus what happens when you reject it. And it lays out the final judgment in these really stark, contrasting terms.
On one hand, for those who lived as servants of the merciful, the reward is the highest level of paradise. It's described as a beautiful, peaceful place of eternal rest. But on the other hand, for those who rejected the truth, the punishment is a tight, narrow place in the fire, a place so awful that they'll actually scream for their own destruction, just to make the pain stop.
And there's this incredibly powerful scene described for the Day of Judgment. All the idols, all the other things that people worshipped instead of the one true God will be brought forward, and right in front of their former followers, they will completely abandon them, saying, "You weren't really worshiping us." Just imagine that, being left completely alone.
And that's where the chapter ends, with this profound, penetrating question. After all the arguments, all the evidence, all the warnings and promises, it boils everything down to this. The one thing that gives us any real value in God's eyes is our choice to turn to Him, to call out to Him. Without that connection, the text asks, what worth would we even have? It's a final thought that puts the ball right back in our court.